I think that knowledge about the famine has become quite a lot more professionalized, actually, which is something that accompanies a historical event's trajectory from being something that's not known to something that's well known and that it's written about professionally by scholars. Um, and it's also become, I think, a lot less political with the demise of the Cold War, because the both superpower blocs during the Cold War had absolutely irreconcilable positions on whether the famine existed at all. Obviously, today there's a lot more kind of broad agreement about what happened on a kind of fundamental level that yes, this happened, this event took place, and there are contours that can be described by looking at the data. But of course, political disagreements remain as a matter of interpretation. Scholarly work about the famine has really also taken quite an interesting trajectory over the last several decades. As I said, there's been research by Ukrainian scholars, first and foremost, and also by Western historians who are prominent, such as Timothy Snyder and Applebaum. And the new but the new research I think that's on the absolute cutting edge of famine studies is research that looks at how the famine played out in the villages. For example, the work of the UK-based scholar Daria Mattingly has examined the role of perpetrators in the famine, what kinds of social backgrounds they had, how they carried out the famine, and what the long-term consequences for perpetrators was. And I think that that's a kind of fundamentally new step in how we understand famine studies. And also, there's a lot more materials about everyday life in the villages, which I think scholars are paying more attention to. And that's really an evolution of the kinds of questions that scholars have been asking for a very long time, because there was this need to prove that the famine took place. There was a focus on political institutions, on decision making, on kind of hierarchies of power, and really about the center, Moscow, Kharkiv, or Moscow and Kiev, how all those political centers, how they made decisions, how they implemented decisions, and what the intention was, because intention was such a crucial sticking point in terms of claims about genocide. And so today, the scholarship is much more interested in looking at how this played out, because that also gives us insights into people's lives and insights into how these things, which may have been designed and implemented on a very, very high level, how they played out in ordinary people's lives. And of course, finally, I guess I'd say that popular culture has also begun to grapple with the legacies of the Holodomor. There's been several films, including Bitter Harvest, which came out in 2017, and Mr. Jones, which came out in 2019, both of which engage the topic of the famine through the medium of film, and which make kind of awareness of this event accessible to a broader audience.